Hello and welcome to an introductory course on mathematical logic and proofs. This course is designed to get students familiar with the concepts and terminology of logic without diving too deep into standard logic notation. This lesson is going to take a look specifically at statements, one of the building blocks of logic. A question that you might be interested in asking before we move on is, what is logic? And I think that's a great question. In mathematics, we tend to follow a particular path when creating and analyzing mathematical structures. First, when we find a structure that is interesting, we try to formally define it. This allows us to play with the structures a bit more in hopes that we'll find something interesting. In our lessons, I will use capital DEF to let you know we are creating a formal definition. After defining something, we can move into the next step, which is to make a claim about the structure. We call this a proposition. In our lessons, let's use capital PROP to denote a claim that looks to be true, but might require a bit more testing. Finally, if we are content with our proposition, we may move into the next phase, which is to prove our claims and to try to make generalizations. A theorem is a proposition that has been shown to be true, and we will use capital THM to denote this in our lessons. Every day we are bombarded with sentences, and our brains automatically try to determine if they are true or false. In logic, it would be nice if we could figure out the truth value of each sentence that we want to study. Take a look at the following three sentences. Are there any that are definitely true? Any that are definitely false? We call a sentence a statement if we can label it as true or false. The truth value must hold true for every person, so in essence, no subjectivity is going to be allowed. Those sentences that do have subjectivity, we're going to save those for debate class. Let's try to work through a couple examples to get a better idea of this. Canada has only 5 provinces. Is this a statement? Well, we actually know that Canada has 10 provinces. This means that the sentence that we have is definitely false. Since this is a sentence that is always going to be false, we can conclude that it's a statement. Crosby is the worst hockey player of all time. Is this a statement? Now, while it is likely true that Crosby is the worst hockey player of all time, this is really a matter of personal opinion, and how people view this is going to differ person to person. Since there's some subjectivity in this particular sentence, we can't permit it to be a statement. This sentence is false. Is this a statement? Well, let's try to figure out what happens if we believe the sentence is true. Well, if the sentence is true, then the sentence is telling us that it must be false. What happens if we believe the sentence is false? Well, if the sentence is false, then the sentence is telling us that it is false. But hey, doesn't that mean that the sentence is true? What the heck is going on here? Because this sentence is both true and false at the same time, we have to conclude that it's not a statement. There are 17 eggs in Brian's fridge. I'm Brian, by the way. Is this a statement? It would be a bit tricky to try to figure this out, since you'd have to look into my fridge. But do you agree that if we could peek inside my fridge, then you would know if the sentence is true or false? So even though we cannot tell if it's true or false right now, we know that it has to be one or the other. So we're going to permit this sentence to be a statement. OMG! Is this a statement? Well, since this really isn't a meaningful sentence, we're not going to permit this to be a statement. The last thing we may want to do with a statement is to negate it, or change its truth value. The simplest way to do this is to add the word not somewhere into the statement. So, for example, if we look at the statement, there are 17 eggs in Brian's fridge, the easiest way to negate this statement is to change it to, there are not 17 eggs in Brian's fridge. For the statement, Canada has only 5 provinces, we could change the truth value of this statement, or negate it, by changing it to, Canada doesn't have only 5 provinces. Of course, this isn't the only way to do this, it just happens to be the easiest.
All right, my little epsilons, stay positive.